Honorable Sami Awuku, you may also take yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to make this statement. And I do so on the basis of insights gathered during a recent engagement between some honorable members of Parliament and the students and staff of the Senior High Technical School for the Deaf in Mampong. The forum, which was organized by the Department of Public Engagement of Parliament and graciously supported by myself, MP for Akuapem North, was an important demonstration of Parliament's commitment to inclusive dialogue and participatory democracy. Right Honorable Speaker, the encounter provided a platform for students living with hearing impairment to interact directly with legislators and provide them with a real-world understanding of how Parliament works, including ways through which they can actively participate. The session, which featured presentations by several honorable members, including the Honorable Member of Parliament, including the Honorable Fred Agbenyo, the Honorable Edem Agbana, the Honorable Kojo Opon Kroma, the Honorable Shelley Che, and Honorable Wallace Pele, was inspiring and also enlightening in equal measure. Mr. Speaker, more importantly, it highlighted critical concerns and thoughtful proposals made by these students and their teachers. These, I believe, require Parliament's attention, inclusive responses, and in some cases, targeted deliberate intervention. Mr. Speaker, the first and most pressing issue raised by the students was the absence of a dedicated legislative framework for deaf education in Ghana. Currently, the only senior high technical school for the deaf in the country functions without a law that secures its future through guaranteed funding, policy direction, and institutional support. This gap leaves the school vulnerable to inconsistent budgetary allocations, administrative neglect, and limited infrastructural development. Such legislation, Mr. Speaker, will do more than fund a school. It will serve as a national commitment to inclusivity, equity, and sustainable educational development for a marginalized group of our population. And this will be in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goal SDG 4, which targets quality education. Target 4.5, which aims to eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for vulnerable groups, including people with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in vulnerable situations by 2030. Mr. Speaker, 2030 is just around the corner. Again, Mr. Speaker, the second matter of concern is infrastructure. The school currently operates from two physically separated campuses, the North and the South. This setup forces students to cross busy roads several times a day, and students with such hearing impairment being at the mercy of drivers that can knock them down easily and risking their lives just to access food or attend classes. Furthermore, the students depend on taxis to transport food between the campuses. This unreliable system has often resulted in delays and, in some cases, complete failure to deliver even their meals, thereby affecting nutrition and concentration. On-site dining hall is recommended to ensure nutrition and eliminate reliance on external logistics. Mr. Speaker, the recommendation for a centralized and accessible learning environment, complete with an on-site dining facility, must be taken up by the Ministry of Education with support from Parliament. Again, Mr. Speaker, the third issue relates to the inadequacy of the current national curriculum in addressing the needs of deaf learners. Teachers explain that most lessons have to be repeated multiple times due to comprehension delays, and the current assessment structures do not account for the unique learning methods required by hearing impaired students. In actual sense, they are treated just like the same and ordinary student. As such, the students propose a comprehensive review of the national curriculum for deaf learners to incorporate sign language-based instructional materials, visual learning tools, simplified content structures, and extended teaching and assessment time. Additionally, they recommend the recruitment and training of more sign language interpreters, the provision of learning aids, and specialized professional development for teachers in deaf education. Right Honorable Speaker, Parliament must take steps to ensure that inclusive education becomes a practical reality rather than a theoretical aspiration. We must empower and urge the Ghana Education Service to work with curriculum experts and disability advocates to revise content and assessment methods. Another area of concern which was raised during these interactions is the systemic exclusion of deaf individuals from Ghana's justice system. Mr. Speaker, this is very striking. Deaf persons have encountered difficulties in even attempting to report crimes. They get to the police stations, the police can neither understand them and they can also not understand the police. Again, they struggle to defend themselves when they are even accused wrongly and reported to law enforcement agencies, or even pursue justice due to the absence of trained interpreters at police stations and in courtrooms. This gap is a violation of basic human rights and goes against the country's pursuit of achieving Target 10.2 of SDG Goal 10, reduce inequalities, which aims to empower and promote the social, economic, and political inclusion of all people, regardless of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, or other status by 2030. Parliament must therefore clarify and enforce the responsibility of state institutions, especially the Ghana Police Service and the Judicial Service, to provide qualified sign language interpreters during legal and investigative proceedings involving deaf individuals. The students also highlighted the need for disability-sensitive civic and legal education. Many are even unaware of their constitutional right or the legal channels available to them when they become victims. Mr. Speaker, Parliament must champion the development of civic education programs tailored to students with disabilities. These should be implemented through the National Commission for Civic Education and mainstreamed across the country. Mr. Speaker, one of the most progressive proposals made at the forum was for Parliament to formally recognize Ghanaian Sign Language as a national language. The students argued quite rightly that such recognition would affirm their identity and improve public understanding and promote greater national cohesion, as done in South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Portugal, Paraguay, among other countries. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Article 21, calls on states to recognize and promote the use of sign languages. This includes accepting and facilitating the use of sign languages, braille, and other accessible means of communication in official interactions. Parliament must explore legislative options and possibly constitutional amendment to recognize Ghanaian Sign Language, integrate it into the basic education system, and expand sign language training across public institutions. The role of educators in deaf education cannot be overstated. Teachers at the Senior High Technical School for the Deaf provide not only academic instructions, but emotional and psychological support to these students. Yet they do this under challenging conditions, without specialized allowances and often inadequate accommodation. The students called for an emotional allowance for their teachers, similar to that provided to village teachers. They also urge authorities to expand staff accommodation to boost morale and performance. Parliament must give serious consideration to these recommendations. Incentivizing and retaining skilled educators in special needs schools is essential to bridging the inclusion gap in our educational system. Mr. Speaker, in light of these concerns, Parliament has a vital role to play in transforming policy into practice, I respectfully propose the following interventions. First, Parliament should refer this statement, Mr. Speaker, and its recommendations to a joint sitting of the Committees on Education, Gender, Children and Social Protection, and Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. Secondly, Parliament must advocate for the introduction of a public bill or private members' bill that provides for dedicated funding streams for deaf education in Ghana, clear national standards for curriculum, staffing, and infrastructure, and legal obligations for inclusive service delivery across sectors. Thirdly, Parliament should exercise its oversight mandate to ensure that resources allocated under the DACF for persons with disabilities are equitably distributed and directly benefit institutions like the Senior High Technical School for the Deaf, School for the Blind, and others. Mr. Speaker, Fourth, Parliament should urge the Ministry of Education to, as a matter of urgency, conduct an infrastructure audit of all special needs schools and submit a plan for campus upgrades and staff housing projects. And fifth, a motion should be introduced mandating all public legal and justice institutions to provide accessible services, accessible legal services for the deaf, including sign language interpretation. And finally, Mr. Speaker, Parliament should request an annual report from the Ministry of Education on the status of special needs education in Ghana. No one knows tomorrow. It could be a relation, it could be any of our children, and it could be somebody close to us. With specific data on student enrollment, curriculum delivery, teacher retention, and infrastructure conditions. Mr. Speaker, the students of the Senior High Technical School for the Deaf in Mampong are not asking for sympathy today from Parliament. They are asking for fairness and equity. They are not demanding special treatment. They are demanding equal opportunity like any other Ghanaian. Let us as a House today respond to their call with urgency, empathy, and resolve. Let this House be remembered today, the 18th of June, as the Parliament that listened not just with its ears, but with its conscience. May this House be remembered as the House that moved beyond its comfort zone to put smiles on the faces of these deaf students and students with disabilities. May the deliberations that follow, Mr. Speaker, not just bring about real change for our students who spoke to these honorable members of Parliament, but for all marginalized communities in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, on this note, I want to say thank you, and thank you on behalf of these students from the Senior High School for the Deaf and from these blind students as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members.